Plan and ballach the wua liam and yerin, la ni bidjan non. In Ye and Jaeger, Dilshi and Turamach George Walker a true account of the siege of Londonderry. We she on gur a bheith hían agus bhfuil deglish na heran a wine a havel and chair. Ba and Tian wallow a dag she na ministry presbytericha nar chivan leis an nanyam nacha Maria gur they kept their people very obedient and quiet. His lair gur Walker a giri a jachlu hien agus jachlu a eglish a hien a wunu big ban na presbytery a bhí tíu Steve den a wali.
It says everything about relations at the time that the one church, St Colum's, was used for two services and now the twain could meet. You know, the Anglicans worshipped in the morning according to their fashion and the Presbyterians in the afternoon. That speaks volumes of relations, even in a time of siege when life is on the line. They couldn't work together and they couldn't accommodate each other in that way.
Presbyterians were very proud of the role they played in the siege of Derry, and contemporary sources tell us that they made up the majority of those who were within the walls. The problem was that a difference of opinion developed amongst Anglicans and Presbyterians about who were the true heroes of the siege of Derry. You had George Walker on the one hand, who went on a propaganda campaign fairly soon after the siege, saying that he was the guy that saved Derry from the Jacobite forces. Presbyterians, particularly John Mackenzie and other people, said that no, it was Presbyterians that had saved Derry, and for them the hero was Adam Murray rather than George Walker.
Bhí taithí fearsanta ag an uramach John Mackenzie an Jaeger or bhí sé ina bhinisteir do chion de regimentí na cachrach. Sa leor leis narrative of the siege of Londonderry has sé suas don a presbytery tíu Steve den na wali. Agus sular ilchi sé é, dír sé é rinch dini agus saidirí mór le rá a bhí tíu Steve den na wali ag an nám minscrúdú a Januar. Agus bhí sé de lig déan ghú maidir leis an nnéran bhíon agus an rál bag a Jimmer Walker. Tamal gerid in é bhrisú légar gaire Hastal Walker gur London áitir chur rí líam fáilte mhór mar governor gaire ag Sherman is mór. Go teach na deachtaí buchas leis agus tugu jontas chuig mhíle pontá. Ag tús an true account leis sé a thugan Walker hían, Your Majesty's most obliged, most faithful, most obedient subject and servant. And you hugga sin a rá fo will ella da English, vi aspoig hasanacha on the vi mihesta leis an rí nua liam agus a wanrian Mary. Agus cúge olu anish fwy smacht, hanig rí liam a dír an sahern, and cahru la jeg the vi vehev, sé jeg noha. Deirtar gonyachi an rí liam a dír on a wad a Mary an ait seo, agus gonyachi sé go garagaragish win capel. Chai sé níos lú na uachligan seo, agus a rá leis an sin go bell firste. An luúan bhfuil sé le toscaracht aglista fustúr an urimi George Walker. Lean grúpa presbyterach rud a chur farag Walker.
The injustices of the past are burning away and they want to impress upon the king their loyalty and the force for good and their numbers in the community, and you know they are a key clientele, and William responded to that.
Kerala in Asian and Shaw ag Hillsborough, hug Liam Udrus Ganyek fi for Yontas Rega, the Villa Rachid Pont leis an English Frescocherach, a Villa Hake one blame tool. Yerian and Tor the Rega, Hugan Tudrus Shaw, Ahru Folye, so Jarko, a Presbyteri Olu. Ní hour inti sé go Jarn and Turamach George Walker, Garan Publi, von Vrumtana Shaw, the Vinisteri na Halaban. Ní roan Chanspoid Fuina, true account of the siege of Londonderry, ag trag a foil, hag vi Jeru toban chi chach der sin, vruch na baine. Is an warch an chiad la júil sé jeg nocha, vruch na baine, ag treidú an ca cynniú nach sin, a hog den lau an rochtar de liam erin. Go lua maijan has trochas sé míle trúpa de chlan Wally and Shaw an Theo Hui den oan, and fihis a cahar míle seach a bíteach fa canasiacht an rí himish an Theo ella. Ga úr jeg ní sin agus míle chuig chéad fear in a lí maru an lethar chaha, hí an la haram an rí liam. na léachra a bhí ar lear bhí an turamach George Walker, balla thurachar musca de leogaway. In éad de himmas a dá an bua a chailóg an bháin, hééis sé an lethar chatha, a harann sé an rank mar ar chonaí sé ar dúiríocht an chodéile dá héal. Jillí mar hasanna ach dána aram an jeran go dtí breisiú achrama. Ba é sinú chonrú limní a chur dearú le cogaíocht an jearú fór sé déag nótha hían. Ábhar iontais a bhí sa méid tráchra a léirí ó sa chonra de chaitlicí na hÉireann ach nar a tháinig Parliament na hÉireann le chéile arís an mhaile clia, dhiúltaí sí ar bhéanta an rí a dheanganú agus reachtaí sí rint tlíthe faoi chaitliceacha. Ba é an tréimhse a bide gan cágu an oltamh an tréimhse a lean conrú limní. Tháinig na mílte lonathuir albanach le gol leo siúd a dil in é léagar gara. Ba é an cías ísel agus an dhearchéim a gursaí tauliaachta sa bhaile a bhail na loníthiúra nua albanacha seo go cúige olú.
Well, the most significant migration was the 1690s. This was the last time in Scottish history that people in the Lowlands starved to death. People who migrated from Scotland to the north of Ireland in the 1690s were actually famine victims. And, you know, given the politics of Ireland and the Irish famine, you know, there's no supremacy over people in the sense that a famine victim is a famine victim. So perhaps as opposed to a migrant from Scotland to Ulster being a sturdy, hard-working Ulster Scot, in fact, many of them were people who were in a pretty perilous position.
Master go ridir céige agus 8 míle duine nua hanig isteach. An áideanna an arthar olú is fiscarú fórhar na níní in a presbytéry rud a chur isteach ar an chléir áitiúil de chuid Eaglis na hÉireann. Ar fud chuige olú is go hoscailte a chhlacht presbytéry a gréidú, le sionnad agus le session cearcocu. De réir an dlí bhí a muintear deachúna a go fáil le Eaglis na hÉireann ach a léad fuair a ministrí écaíocht bhliantúil ón choráin Sasanna. Ba é an chúis ba bhó garain a bhí ag an Eaglis Presbyteirach ag an am ná nar aitheann an stát pású ar bí a chuid.
Probably the thing that bothers them most is that their marriages are not accepted as valid, where Catholic marriages are. But marriages conducted by a Presbyterian minister are not valid, and that has all sorts of implications for the legitimacy of children, for the inheritance of property. So it's those kind of practical problems. We're not talking about large-scale repression, but things that affect people's everyday life, that creates frustration and tension, even in the 90s.
Reachtaí Parliament na hÉireann anis a bhí a réalú ag sco acma de chuid Eaglis na hÉireann. Reachtaí sí dlí uair sa bhliain 73 a churthú srían ar asbreise na papachta.
Presbyterians found themselves in a situation in Ireland where a confessional state had been set up, where your access to political power and social power was based on the religion that you confessed. In other words, being a member of the established Church of Ireland. And what happened was that those who weren't members of the established Church of Ireland, the Catholic majority and also the Presbyterian community in the north of Ireland, were excluded by penal laws from access to full political and social power. And the best example of that was the so-called sacramental test that was tacked on to the 1704 Popery Act. And Presbyterians took grave offence to this because they said, here we are defending the Protestant constitution at the Siege of Derry, and in 1704 we're being treated the exact same as the Catholics that we were fighting against. So Presbyterians found themselves in a second-class, if not third-class status by the early 18th century.
Seamuid mar sin céad bliain níos faide a ré ó Plandáil Freebuteach Montgomery agus Stewart agus Plandáil fa a réocht rí simas leis an Eaglis Presbyteirach bunaithe a gcuige olú agus go fáil bog arcan aspoig Anglicanach na hÉireann orthu mar á acma agus bagairt a buinslá. bhealach tugu winter ma hinhan wahara a bheith scitte amach mar ghine. Bhí an tír a reachtail ag drám bog dúis le protestúnacha a chine amach as ifigí pibli as an aram agus as an fearlaman siad. Hiig siad go ríhaid go mé ó bagart an ó chatlaí go seasamh na lonathirí albanach seo leá. Fuair siad crothú sin in ionsaí cheire. Sacrú neoráite a bhí gceist an seo a bhair fa 100 bliain. Bhí his tiltseach chu suas le presbyteriáló ach ní chhlaci leo agus is cinse nach gurthaí muinneáin ionfu.
Fanna gilíonn don drón hóna a cháirdach an fiochan der mór scialtan lei nuacht TG Cahar a hasnóig go garid tréis na haimsire agus inis cúil cuasaí cultúrtha tá go rastas na Hilána gnocht, giom amach an aróig le muintir íháile bif a chur an stáitse.